Rolling sound.
So sa di bula.
Dumedisa.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of our YouTube channel. My name is Ga-Pholushe and this is my handsome husband.
Ga-Pholushe.
And in today's episode, guys, we'll be sharing a story on how we met and our journey so far. Please do watch till the end of the video because it's going to be a very interesting episode. And if you're new to the channel, we hope that you subscribe because we would love to take you on a journey of our love, our walk with God, kids, and family.
And yeah, like she said, in today's episode, we'll be covering a topic that we actually should have covered in the very first episode, but we just recently got over some problems until we found a new appreciation for each other. And so our second episode, we jumped straight into, wanting to appreciate each other while the feeling was still fresh, We're coming together, my wife and I, finding each other and finding healing after some time. And then our third episode was into gender-based violence. When it was a trending topic that we felt we should talk on while it's still fresh and while it's still trending, because it's an experience that we also have. So finally, in this episode, we're going back to the beginning to give you the origins of the two of us here and take you on the journey together so far.
Yes, baby.
So, Anape work. You were 16.
I was 16 in Amutaka when we met, and you were 22.
I was 22, Anape.
I was still in grade 10.
And I was 4 years out of matric. I had already dropped out of UNISA, and I had already started hustling here in Kempton Park.
Yeah.
You see. By the way, go check out my YouTube channel, in which I'll be explaining the details of how I came to be a cinematographer, producer, entrepreneur. I went about it without a formal education, without any employment. Till today, I've never worked, and my last school was some few assignments with UNISA and some few tests that I didn't attend to, but here it is now. So yes, do check that out. I was hustling when when we met.
Yes. And you're hustling in the streets of West Streets, where I also attended high school.
Yes. Yes. That's a good thing. That's a good detail to remember, babe.
Yeah.
Yes. Where I was hustling, you were attending school on the street right here.
Exactly.
And where I live is a neighborhood next to yours. And where we met is right outside my house. When you had come to
fetch Mwana ko Kreche.
Yes, you were fetching Mwana ko Kreche, and that day they had gone to
Joburg Zoo, a trip.
Yeah, they had gone to Joburg Zoo, and you were just waiting outside Basaboy. And I walked out. When my house is right front opposite. Continue, Nape.
So his house right front opposite of the crash. My little brother attended Kuteng,
No, it's your little brother, your cousin.
Little cousin, I can say that. Yeah, I just call him my little brother because he's my relative, but he cousin yaka. So Nikile delay in a go krechi, and I had waited for a very long time, Basaboy. And then this guy, imagine at the time, guys, I was so short.
You still are.
I was so short. I'm still short, but then at the time I was shorter than now. If I were to say that.
Changed.
Really, babe, I haven't changed.
Nothing.
I haven't changed, so I can hold. But it's okay. So this guy pulls out Omuteli, and I got charmed by his big eyes, guys. It was love at first sight. He doesn't believe it, but hey, my heart melted when I saw him till today.
Yeah, that's because I walked out Ga-Pholushe a grey tracksuit from Mr. Price. That was already stretched out, worn out, and a blue V-neck long sleeve jersey.
It's like a loungewear, but it didn't matter to me, you know.
Yeah, so I was, I was kind of unemployed, I get. So I was always in the house, either always in bed or always on the couch in what I wore and what I walked out in. So hey, when you say you fell in love the first time right there, I just find that shocking.
I wasn't in love with the clothes, you understand me? Not the clothes. Yeah.
So yes, so babe, I was raised in a family home with married parents.
Yeah.
When
I was raised, guys, I was raised with a single parent. My mom's a single parent. I have an older brother, and like the big room, one room, and would share. You know, sometimes would have our uncle coming over, our cousins coming over. It was like a very uncomfortable way of living, especially when you have Wanyana, Limshimani as siblings in one room. Because at some point we had to divide the room kaketeng, you know, so that the other piece of the room can accommodate my brother and the other side can accommodate me and my mom. So that was very yeah, the kitten, baby.
you actually did that.
We actually did that. Hey, we divide rooms straight ka curtain, like curtain is straight, we bona re curtain e tsena mo festering, right tsenya mo gare wa bona ka mo side mo go dulang di stove le di fridge, it's one side, mo robalang it's one side, and that would give like some space to say this is my brother's side,
Privacy, so
yeah, kind of that. So it was very it was a very struggle. It was a struggle. Yeah, poor conditions of living. So as we unfold the story, you'll also get to know how that affected me personally, and how those traumas also affected our marriage.
Yeah. So before we get there, how did you hang the curtain? I've never heard this before.
Okay, guys, like go to room ne, you understand, like in the bedrooms, khona le maplanka of the smooth ceiling. So we'd hang the curtain just there. From a planking.
Well, sure. Shocking because I grew up kind of the opposite. Like I say, I grew up in a family home. Both parents married. Both parents were working. My mother working for the government. Working go Tembisa Hospital.
Hospital, yes.
I get it. And my father working as manager go post office. You see. My father being Muruti. I was raised in a pretty organized, disciplined, straightforward condition. One told. And yeah.
You're like a cheese boy. Happy Nadula Udula Liting. If you know where Liting is, guys, compared to where we live, Rena, we used to see those kids Badulankakwa as the cheese boy, the cheese girls, you know.
That's view, not Liting, man.
No, but if you look at the township guys go Tembisa, you know there are the burbs everywhere, like compared to Mteong, Mahokeng, those kind of things. Hey.
I guess so. Yeah, it's basically bond housing.
Bond housing.
Yeah, I grew up in a bond neighborhood. When all let's go di RD
it's like that.
So yes. So then we met when a baby. On that day, I drove out and I did come back and I caught up with you and you gave me your number. And we started talking and we started dating. And then by matric, you fell pregnant.
I fell pregnant so quickly.
When I said,
Yeah, I can be tricky, guys. I remember when I actually found out when I was writing my preliminary exams, Hore, I'm pregnant.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where into our problems kind of started. When we started experiencing some very serious problems. Okay, I being Wanamruti, ne? There's what we call Rohaula Kokreking, which is, I'm not sure if this is the correct term, but an excommunication is like a suspension. I think an excommunication is a total removal from the faith, and that is something, Roman Catholicism. Not you. I don't think that Muruti can remove you completely from the mercy of God.
It's
from
like
contact with God. Yeah, this was a suspension. So yeah, I got suspended. I was a keyboard player ko kerekeng. I was youth leader. So kila tshwanela ke gore nna ke kgaolwe. And because baby I loved you and I had some cash, wabon.
You had mercy for me because you remember I was telling you.
Yes.
Because I also attended Kereke Apostol, it was St. John's Apostolic Faith Mission in Nekile pending. So whenever you get pregnant, usanyala, they had to take your uniform away from you. Yeah, like a suspension. Hey, in front of people, and they even has like they even used to sing a song. You did something wrong. So I didn't want to face that kind of event, So I pleaded with him to go
pay damages.
damages.
Yeah. So I paid damages, and that stayed your execution, and we kind of got engaged. When did soon thereafter as well, ne?
Not soon thereafter. You did it the same 2014. Then the following year when Batloncha damage you paid half of the lobola. So 2015.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So the following year I then ended up ke lobola.
Paying the damage as well.
Paying the damages as well. And then our son arrived. Ga-Pholushe Munyane.
21 April.
21 April, yes.
2015.
Of 2015. And then a month later,
you got arrested.
That's when I got arrested for the first time for the hustling that I'm doing, which I'm explaining on my YouTube channel. Do go and check out
that you were
episode.
Doing.
Yes, that I was doing.
Because now you stopped doing.
Yeah, because now I'm a producer. I'm a professional now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you got pregnant, and even though I paid damages, problems started, especially between your family and mine. I don't want us to dwell too much on what was happening, but the problems that were arising and the conditions that you were living in, given how cramped your space was it was now starting to expose, underlying emotional issues and traumas. You are comfortable to share that, babe?
I'm very much comfortable to share that with you guys, because I tell my husband always that I'll never shy away from the struggles that I went through, because I believe that it was God's purpose for my life. And I'll simply share the stories with you guys, because I do know that there are some other people who are also going through the same struggles and they don't know how to overcome them. So I really do hope that my story will draw as an inspiration to say that don't give up. You know, God is with you, and He will also deliver you from each and every situation that you're facing.
So I met you, but before I met you, Wantol, you had gone through into a rape when a babe.
Yes.
Wantol. Repeatedly over time. You told me about that when we met. I remember you were traumatized and you shared it with me, Risakopana. But I thought that it's something that you are now getting past. But I didn't know, you know, with the pregnancy of our son, that this is something that is still about to show up.
Yeah.
You know, the emotions and
I hadn't
the
dealt
hormonal
with it.
changes of being pregnant
Yes.
started exposing that.
Yes.
Wabana, you had a very difficult pregnancy with our son.
I did. It was very difficult because I was still in high school, guys. So you can just imagine, you know, the pressures being talked about, being the topic ya ko high school, and everything like that. And I remember at some point my family suggested that I should have an abortion so that I can try to save my future, you know, and go to varsity. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, you know. So those are kind of the struggles that I went through. So it became a very challenging time in my life. I even had to move away from my mom's place and go live with my grandmother, Petwing. You remember when you used to come and visit me, Petwing?
Yeah, for a short time I remember you when you were writing was it your exams or your prelims?
It was my prelims, just after I recently found out that I'm pregnant.
And then you ended up moving Kohai when our son was already there.
Yes.
And now the space go and I was becoming way too much with a baby.
With the baby.
Yeah, when a baby. So yeah, babe, do share. So I remember when a baby when you fell pregnant with our son. I started now seeing how emotionally vulnerable you are. You had told me when we first met, Hore, you 2 years prior to that, you had been raped. And I thought in my mind back then, okay, well, 2 years, it's something it's now passing, you're getting over it. And even when you first told me, you didn't tell me the full extent of how long it lasted, who was involved, and the fact that this person at some point also brought, you know, his friends to rape you as well. But then when you got pregnant, the hormonal changes really showed me a different side to you. And then this thing from 2 years prior then started to come out. What happened, Bewaka, if you are willing to speak on this?
So it was 2010. I was doing grade 8. I was 13. So my mom, because of the situation, you know, being uncomfortable, you know, and I was going into an adolescent stage, so my mom was always at work. So she saw it fit to say, so when I got there, I found myself in a situation where there was a relative of ours who was a teacher, teaching at a school where I was also studying, you know. So that teacher then came to be the person, you know, who molested or raped me several times. It started off February until June. And I tried, you know, stopping it, Because there was even a time where people would have rumors kuskolong saying that I'm dating this person. And little did I not even have the courage to speak out, because that person was intimidating me, threatening me, blackmailing me. And you can just imagine, I was a 13-year-old. I had no power, like my mouth was shut. So at some point when everything was happening and I had enough of it, I decided to run away from home, because even when I would want to warn my family or warn my mother about what is happening, no one was taking me serious. They were all just thinking, maybe ke hopotse wela Gauteng, and it's one of the tactics that I'm using gore ke buye Gauteng. So I was like, okay, this is not going to be the life that I'm going to live. Then I decided to run away from home. I think I disappeared for about a day or two. And then when they found me, guys, bile better. I remember I couldn't sit properly. I couldn't bath, like bekirobala fela ka dimpa. Yeah, that's how bad ka shambok. You can just imagine a shambok and you're beating a young girl so and roko that day. So they were beating on my skin, so my skin literally peeled off, So I had to really overcome those kind of circumstances. So that's after the beating happened. That's when my mom started to see, okay, something is really happening to my daughter. I remember the following day or 2 days after Bambetile, she asked another family relative to come pick me up and Lise Joburg. That was 2010, when schools were closing off for 2010 for the World Cup. I came back home. So when I came back home, there was a day when the trauma started coming back, and I tried. It was even before I tried hanging myself. I drank an overdosage of pills, and they took me to. No, it wasn't even an overdosage of pills. When I came back, I started having womb problems. So there was a day where I had pains, and I didn't also understand what the pains were. So they had to rush me to Kosangweni. So when we got Kosangweni, I remember the first thing that the nurses asked was, what happened to you? Because nurses knew what to check and how to check it properly. And they started questioning my mom. What happened to this child? Because we are seeing things that kids of her age shouldn't be experiencing. That's when she also started believing, it's okay, this thing has happened. So that's when now the whole problem of being suicidal started.
And you attempted suicide?
Yes. After that, a year after that, when I was doing grade 9, that was my second attempt of suicide, where I tried hanging myself where we were living in Mamaga. And by the grace of God, guys, that day, it was the grace of God.
Or Namama Blanking, where you say the curtain was hung.
Where the curtain was hung. Yeah, I saw myself ke go ga stulo, kara di room vele re ke se ditulo nyana tše o se re sultša di plastic. Yes. Ka senamela stulo ka tšea thapo ka te hanga. It was by the grace of God. I don't know what happened to Tabuela or e kgaotše ke eng, but when hasetse e kgaotše Tabuela ke wela mo fase, I could see even the pee on the floor to say, okay, I was unconscious for some time.
And you're alive.
And I'm alive.
And that's exactly what I started noticing there when you were pregnant and after you gave birth. That was the first time I started hearing you now talk about suicide. Again, of which I thought the suicide was something in the past together with the rape. So when the suicide and suicidal thoughts and suicide attempts started again, I think I remember you cutting yourself during when you were pregnant, and you were angry at something very small, or I hadn't called you, I was ignoring you, or you were emotional and I wasn't having the time. Yeah, I remember you cut yourself, and when I saw that, I was like, no, something here is not okay. But then that is how we met, and that's what we went through, you know. That trauma would then go on for years.
For at least 10 years.
Yeah. And as we are doing our YouTube channel like this, you know, and saying that we are finding healing, you know, and being together again, you see, these are the things that we are overcoming. Today we believe in God for the change that He has brought and the change that is still to come. A lot of things that we are not including, I mean, is the fact that you developed bipolar as well, and you also went to rehab twice, and you became addicted to alcohol very much, and you became addicted to smoking very much. But I think we should create an entire episode to talk about that particular thing. We kind of mixed it up here, but hey, we met, we didn't have a honeymoon phase much.
It was only during that time when we that first 2 years when we used to go out, remember?
That time was the only time we kinda enjoyed pregnant. Ourselves. And I remember our very first interview where we spoke Lemota. He asked us, so guys, how was your honeymoon phase? We immediately said no, there was no honeymoon phase at all.
There wasn't.
So that's how we met. That's how we got to be where we are. Those are the challenges we've had to overcome together, you know. We had different upbringings, but as I am today, you see, I'm somebody who sympathizes very much with rape and rape victims, you know. It's like I know, you know, I can imagine it. You know, I've felt your pain when I pay waka. I've held you tightly many times where you wanted to commit suicide. You felt like pulling your hair. It was just a mess, and I felt like I felt like I had married an emotional trash bag in jail, you know, but by the grace of God, we'll talk about those things some other time, I guess.
I think we do have to
we do
need to also create a different episode where we are talking specifically about those things, because if we were to dig into them or dive into them right now,
there'll be so
many guys, because like I say, my story is one story that is still going to shock many people, because when you see me from the outside, you wouldn't think of the things that I went through.
Never.
You know, you'd never.
Never.
Yeah, you'd never, because I think at some point I remember I became so good with masking myself. Wearing a different mask of who I am, because I grew up and I became so bold and courageous despite whatever happened to me. Even though I was still struggling, you know, I was still this beautiful, pretty girl who loved, you know, being pretty all the time. So
the makeup as well was also an addiction. Yours,
yes.
Yeah, when I met you, pretty as you are, cute as you were that day, you had on like foundation, and I was so surprised to see
that kind of a foundation.
With a foundation so beautiful.
At that time, guys, both the pearls.
And the makeup as well, as you say now, when people you used to mask, you literally put on a happy, pretty face, but inside you were very, very damaged, and it later showed by the amount of makeup you always had, like all of
Clothes,
these accessories,
everything.
clothes, man, literally everything just became something addictive because you were trying to cover up something. But yes, before we go too far, guys, we don't know how long this episode will be. I am a person who's very concerned about boring people. The kind of content I create is usually tailor-made and nicely edited
Yeah.
to squeeze in maximum information without any wastage. So I'm a person who I'm shy to waste people's time. I hope this episode hasn't dragged for too long and it hasn't dragged on uselessly. But we believe that we've served the purpose of introducing how we met. But then in the conversation that we've had, baby, this topic of the rape, the trauma, the addiction, the suicides, the rehabilitation. You went to rehab twice. All of those things.
They need another episode.
They need another episode for themselves.
Yeah, I think it should be a continuation after here, to continue telling the story because, like I say, guys, many of you guys who are going to be watching this video, you're also going through the same things as we are going to unfold the stories and understand how, background and childhood traumas tend to affect our adulthood.
Yeah, so do subscribe. It's going to be a journey about psychology as well, because with so much trauma and all of the psychologists and psychiatrists you've seen. We've had to learn about psychology.
Exactly.
So we now know kind of like how emotions and how the brain and
works.
how people's characters they work out, let's not go too far. This conversation is getting too exciting. Thank you, guys. Do check out my YouTube channel. I am posting an episode in the next few days about my experience, the hustling that I did, throughout my 20s, from the time I was 19 all the way until I was 29, when I finally made enough money to invest in a new business, new skills, etc. Do check that out. I love you and I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. If you are out there and you relate to this experience, we'd like to see you in the comments. Do also check in the description because I will link a story, an interview on Relebogile Maboja's channel. I remember a lady who went onto the channel and she spoke so fluently, about the abuse of being taken like you. Another thing that you left out, Guru, you were taken Komahaye, not just to go be there, but it was because you were supposed to go be Litwasana.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so she was also taken to initiation, and there
that went wrong.
She experienced this rape that seems to be very consistent
in our
with
culture.
Diloteja Sejo. It seems like it's something it is being done on purpose. I think rape culture in our culture is our culture.
Is our culture. You can say that because there was even a documentary that we watched that explained satanic ritual abuse.
Satanic ritual abuse. So, baby, asibo pelap. Laila damto.
Asibo pelapo, guys, and please do watch till the end. And if you watch till the end, we thank you. There will be a continuation of our topic because you can see what's in there, and we have more beans to spill.
Thank you and God bless you.
Peace out.